On a crisp October morning in 1620, the Mayflower's prow cut through the waters of Cape Cod, bringing with it a group of religious dissenters seeking sanctuary in a new land. Among them was a young William Bradford, his eyes filled with dreams of a society where his beliefs would not earn him scorn. The vast stretch of the new world before him promised a fresh start, but it also concealed challenges that would test the very fabric of his faith. Several years later, in the bustling settlement of Boston, Anne Hutchinson convened her weekly religious meeting. As she shared her thoughts on the covenant of grace, her words found resonance in many, but also sowed the seeds of unease among the Puritan elite. Her belief in a direct connection with God, bypassing the established clergy, was radical, bordering on heretical in the eyes of the colony's leaders. In the echoing chambers of the Church of England, murmurs of discontent grew. The Puritans, with their relentless push to purify the church, were increasingly seen as disruptive dissenters. Their call for autonomy, combined with their peculiar democratic leanings, was unsettling the traditional order. Why were these Puritans, with their seemingly heretical ways, so insistent on redefining the religious landscape? And how did their fervor lead them to the shores of a continent thousands of miles away? The unfolding tale of Bradford and Hutchinson reveals a story of faith, persecution, and the quest for religious freedom. It is a tale of a fledgling society grappling with its identity, setting the foundation for a nation that would, in time, become synonymous with liberty and democracy. So join us today on Historical Quarrels as we journey back to the tumultuous 17th century, channeling the wisdom of the ancients who believed that from the seeds of discord grow the flowers of wisdom and understanding. So let's embark on this exploration of our historical quarrel, where religious fervor meets the birth of American democracy. Welcome back to Historical Quarrels. I am happy you are alive and well, listening to the show. For all new listeners, this show is very NSFW. I like to say no words. And I like to combine okay good boy words into sentences that actually mean no bad things. I don't know why I phrased it like that, to be honest. I think in my brain, whenever I think of someone who doesn't like swearing at all, or off-color humor, I just think of a 4-year-old child named Timmy, whose parents, primarily his mother, told him swear words are only used by people who aren't smart enough to think of anything else to say. Which I understand to some degree. Not every other word out of your mouth needs to be a swear, but the words are just so much fun. Sometimes, just take the word bitch, for example. The word bitch has a long and varied history. Bitch originally derives from Old English bitchy, or bicey, which refers to a female dog. It is believed to be of Germanic origin and is related to words in other Germanic languages like Old Norse. In its earliest recorded uses, bitch was not an offensive term, it simply denoted a female dog. Over time, however, it began to acquire negative and derogatory connotations. And by the Middle Ages, where a majority of today's historical quarrel takes place in, by the way, just so you know, I don't want to be derailing too much here, bitch was being used in a more derogatory sense, referring to a woman in a demeaning way. This negative connotation likely arose from unfavorable views of female dogs in comparison to male dogs, in terms of behavior and value. However, for a long time, the word cur was used as a derogatory word for males as well in the same sense. So, for example, Timmy, you know your mother was a real bitch for telling you that, and your father was a little cuck cur for not telling her how bitchy or bitch-like she was being by talking shit like that on people who like to say words. That in today's time only have the historical derogatory usage to mark it being a quote-unquote bad word. She probably has friends that call her bitch Timmy, just to reclaim some of the power back that word had stolen from women. And at the very least, I didn't call her a cunt, little Timmy. So go home now and realize that swearing doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means that you're an asshole, and everyone should be an asshole sometimes, or you'll get walked over in this life. Run along now, little Tim, and be free. Swear. Anyways, I want to thank you, listeners, for the love and support that you have shown and for leaving those reviews. It really does help spread the show. For those of you that haven't listened to the other show I do with some friends, it's called Heart Homies Podcast, and it's a lot of fun. I really suggest that you check it out when you get a chance. It comes out every Thursday, and we go over a wide variety of topics. Today's episode is going to be the start of a series similar to the one I did for Rome and the origins of Christianity, and in many ways will actually be the continuation of it, as I will be going over what will assuredly be my most controversial topic, the origins and feuds between Republicans and Democrats. Why did I choose to do this to myself? Well, primarily because it's fascinating to me, and the origins of the United States of America's founding and the subsequent party system that was developed, despite a certain president's warning against it, is an interesting and important part of not just American history, but world history, as it does impact modern society today. Maybe not as heavily as many Americans seem to think it does, but it does have an impact on the world at large. And I think it's fun to talk about. I'm not going to be really shitting on political parties all that much, just, mostly the idea of it and how dumb it is that we put ourselves into camps for politics. Team sports. That's what it's become. So I don't like it. I will be talking a little bit about that. So what does that mean for the first episode in the series? Well, today we will be going over a series of events leading up to the lives of Anne Hutchinson and William Bradford and the Protestant origins of America, and how Protestant culture actually shaped how early America would be governed based off of the quarrels they were having with the Church of England and Catholics at the time. As I was researching for this, that's kind of like how I interpreted how a lot of the government and culture was started here in America for how it would be led in the future. And then in the following episodes, I will be going over the Revolutionary War. I'll be going over the Civil War, I'll actually get really close up to modern times. It's the first time I'm going to let myself get anywhere past, really past 1940 for this show. So it will be fun. It will be a good one. So prepare thyself, for the kingdom of God and America is at hand as we enter into this political/religious series of historical quarrels. You are listening to Historical Quarrels. So to start today's episode, we're going to be going right essentially where we kind of left off with the Roman series in 1054 AD with the Great Schism. So the Great Schism of 1054 is a pivotal moment in the annals of Christian history, marking the formal split between the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. The schism's roots trace back centuries, with theological, cultural, political, and geographical factors all playing a role. Lots of words today. Central to the theological discord was the Filuke controversy. It was the Latin term that translates to "and the Son." This phrase was added to the Nicene Creed in the West to indicate that the Holy Spirit proceeded from both the Father and the Son. However, the East adhered to the original version, which stated that the Holy Spirit proceeded from only the Father. This seemingly minor difference had major implications, highlighting deeper theological rifts between the East and the West. Essentially, if you're, this is all going over your head, because believe me, it did for me at first too. People were arguing over whether or not Christ had any say in where the Holy Spirit came from. There are still a whole bunch of arguments as to whether Jesus was the Son and he was also God, or, if he was like a both or an amalgamation of both. And that specific translation was highly debated based off of all that. It came from, if you go listen back to the previous episodes, from all the other arguments they were having during that time. So there is also a bunch of language barriers that exacerbated these religious rifts. The West used Latin while the East used Greek. As translations between the two were not always accurate or nuanced, misunderstandings flourished. It's a lot like, trying to translate parables from the parables or like metaphors in English to Spanish or to, and sometimes it works one-to-one and a lot of times it doesn't. A lot of misunderstandings can occur because of the way it's translated. So shit like that was causing a bunch of problems. And moreover, the two halves of Christendom had developed distinct cultural and philosophical traditions as well, which further alienated one from the other. They were like, man, these motherfuckers are weird. Their culture's weird. I hate them. That's what was going on. And at the heart of the schism, there was also a battle for ecclesiastical supremacy. So really at the heart of all these issues, there are two people vying for power. And we had the Pope in Rome who claimed universal jurisdiction over all Christians, a claim that was fiercely contested by the Patriarch of Constantinople. Both church leaders vied for influence and recognition as the quote-unquote true heirs to the early Christian church. They were like, no, Paul would have wanted me, or not Paul, sorry, Peter wanted me to lead the church. No, Jesus wants me to lead all the people. And, lots of problems there. And then we had the climactic excommunication that happened as well. So tensions reached their zenith in 1054 when Cardinal Humbert, a representative of Pope Leo IX, marched into the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople and placed a bull of excommunication on the altar, primarily targeting Patriarch Michael I, Cerularius. And in response, Cerularius excommunicated Humbert, though not the Pope himself. He didn't want to go too far above the station. And so he essentially tried to make it so that the Humbert couldn't have delivered that bull of excommunication, thus protecting himself in a way, which is weird. It was kind of confusing. We'll get into it later. Leo IX was crazy. That'll be a fun episode when we get into it. Okay, so we have the division between the Roman and Byzantine empires that played a role in the schism, and the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD meant that the East, with Constantinople as its capital, became the political and cultural epicenter of the Christian world. This shift exacerbated religious differences and competitive dynamics between them as well. The schism's aftermath was profound. The Christian world, previously united, was now divided into distinct spheres. And over time, these divisions would be cemented by further theological disputes, wars, and mutual mistrust. Because no one can decide what Jesus fucking meant when he said, I rode an ass into town. He was probably just fucking an ass, guys. Let's be calm here. Over the centuries, various leaders attempted to reconcile the two churches. The most notable attempt was the Council of Florence in 1439. While an agreement was initially reached, it quickly fell apart due to strong opposition from Orthodox clergy and laity. The council fell apart for a myriad of reasons. One of the main ones being a dispute between a cardinal and a bishop over the matter of Christ's shaft size. The bishop was positive Christ's shaft measured at 8.5 inches or 22 centimeters, and the cardinal refuted that, stating it was at minimum 0.28 inches in diameter and 10 to 13.5 inches in length. The dispute over the shaft size of the spear that pierced Christ would eventually turn into a much more heated argument that was recorded down by scribes, and the council was listening to the bishop and the cardinal speak. This was a very interesting conversation that they had, and luckily we have the recorded version of it. So the cardinal spoke first, saying, my dear bishop, the intricacies of this matter have been contemplated by scholars and theologians for centuries. To truly understand, we must journey back to the byways and alleyways of ancient Rome. Now, as you know, the Roman soldiers wielded different variants of the pilum. One might wonder why our Lord was not pierced with the thicker, more robust version. To this, the divine design was in play. The thinner pilum, in its split form, represented the subtleties of our human frailties, the nuances of our sins, and the often unnoticed but persistent nature of human transgressions. Had the thicker pilum been used, the symbolism might have been overt and crude. It would have conveyed a message of blunt force over overt oppression and the weight of glaring sins. But our Savior's crucifixion was not just about the overt, but also the covert. Not just about the seen, but also the unseen. Not only the known, but the secrets held within the human heart. Furthermore, as you are well aware, the finer details of such events were orchestrated by divine providence. The use of the thinner pilum serves as a poignant reminder that even in our subtlest, seemingly insignificant actions, we are called to recognize our need for redemption and grace. In essence, the choice of the thinner pilum was not a mere accident of history, but a divine orchestration that underscored the depth, breadth, and complexity of human nature and our relationship with the Almighty. So, my dear Bishop, it is our duty to recognize the profundity in the smallest of details and be ever vigilant in our contemplation and understanding of the divine narrative. You know, you went pretty in depth there, being like, so he was basically saying he got stabbed with a thinner shaft because it was all planned by God, right? It was all used to represent some big higher point. To which the bishop then replied, esteemed cardinal, I appreciate the depths of your contemplation and your attempt to fathom the divine intricacies of that fateful day. However, with all due respect, might we not be ascribing a touch too much symbolism in the choice of pilum? It is true that the Romans possessed both thick and thin pila, yet we must also consider the more pragmatic reasons behind the events of the crucifixion. The Roman soldiers, in their haste and perhaps even in their indifference to the significance of the man they were crucifying, might have simply grabbed the most convenient weapon at hand. It's plausible that the thinner pilum was more readily available, or perhaps more widely in the chaos of the moment. Moreover, while I concede that the divine has often moved in mysterious and subtle ways, we must be cautious in overreading into every detail. Our faith is profound and multifaceted, yes, but it is also rooted in the simplicity of Christ's teachings and his sacrifice for us. We must be wary of not making our interpretations so convoluted that they stray from the straightforward message of salvation and redemption. In essence, while I admire and value your spiritual insights, I believe we should always anchor our interpretations in the clear, uncomplicated love of Christ, lest we risk losing our flock in a maze of overwrought symbolism. The bishop was like, simplest answer is usually the right one, stupid. To which the cardinal replied, dear bishop, I have always cherished our theological exchanges, for they provide a delightful insight into the breadth and depth of thought within our sacred institution. However, I must admit I find myself somewhat surprised at your rather rudimentary interpretation. Perhaps the complexities of divine orchestration are lost on some, basically calling him a dumbass. It is possible, my dear bishop, that in your eagerness to simplify and make palatable the profound mysteries of our faith, you've unintentionally oversimplified to the point of naivety. One would think that a man of your position and education would be able to discern the nuanced fingerprints of the divine in the history's grand tapestry, but then again, maybe I expect too much. Your perspective, while quaint in its simplicity, fails to capture the essence of our Lord's intricate designs. It's essential, dear bishop, that we don't let our limited human understanding reduce the richness of God's actions to mere coincidence or convenience. Might I suggest a more thorough and, dare I say, intelligent reflection upon the scriptures and the church's traditions? It would surely benefit not only your spiritual growth, but also that of your congregation. After all, as the shepherds of the Lord's flock, we are called to guide with wisdom and insight, and not, as it seems in this case, with a rather pedestrian viewpoint. Fucking called him a dumbass. Fucking crazy. So, the bishop then said, Cardinal, your words truly have the ring of one who relishes hearing his own voice echo in the vast chambers of self-importance. God damn! But as we indulge in this tit for tat, one can't help but notice the physical parallels between you and the very pilum you defend so ardently. You got a thin penis, buddy. One might say that just as you're enamored with the subtlety and delicateness of the thin pilum, it seems the divine saw fit to bless you with features reminiscent of such understated dimensions. Perhaps it's the reason for your zealous defense, a subconscious affinity, if you will. And as for your faith, while you posture with grand theological discourse, one wonders if underneath it all there isn't a fragility, much like that slender spear, attempting to compensate with ornate words and convoluted interpretations. But we're not, dear Cardinal, for as Christ taught us, it is not the outward appearance or the verbose proclamations that matter, but the heart And I pray that beneath your elaborate robes and lofty expressions, there lies a heart truly devoted to the Lord. After all, it's not the size of our faith, but the sincerity with which we wield it, is it not? Oh, shit! So the cardinal's last reply right before the fighting broke out because of this was, dear bishop, it's rather telling, is it not, when one resorts to descend to such physical trivialities. Yet, if we are to engage in such discourse, let me assure you, it is perhaps a projection of one's own insecurities that causes such an unseemly focus. For it is often the case, as ancient philosophers have mused, that he who points the finger harbors the very flaw he so eagerly attributes to another. Your preoccupation with the dimensions of the phylum and the rather crude allusion to personal anatomy might just betray a deep-seated anxiety about your own, shall we say, spiritual stature. But my dear bishop, our Lord did say, blessed are the meek. God damn! Though I doubt he was referencing to the dimensions you so coyly hint at. However, it saddens me deeply that our discourse has degenerated to such lows. If this is the level of dialogue and respect of the Eastern Church maintains, perhaps it is a divine indication. It might just be time for our two great traditions, the East and the West, to tread separate paths, free from the pettiness and distractions of such base insinuations. The insolence and disrespect you've shown, not just to me, but to the very fabric of our shared faith, leaves me with little choice. It's clear that under your influence, the East is veering away from the true path of the Christian unity. Therefore, in the interest of preserving the sanctity and dignity of our beliefs, I declare a schism. May the Lord guide our separate paths and judge us by our intentions and actions, you small-dicked loser. And then the fighting would break out into the theological war that would last until our modern day. Like I said, the schism's consequences are still felt today. Despite recent efforts to foster dialogue and understanding, the Orthodox and Catholic churches remain separate entities, each with its own doctrines, liturgies, and traditions. Historian Sir Stephen Runciman reflected on the schism, noting the world of Christendom was left divided, not just into two sects, but into two worlds with different views on the relation of spiritual and secular authority, different traditions of art and scholarship, and above all, different outlooks on the nature of religion and the responsibilities of man. Much of this schism is what will lead to more and more people questioning the dogma of both churches and their authority on the interpretation of the Bible. And this is where we get into the rise of the Lollardy. God damn it. It's a hard word to pronounce. The 14th century in England was marked by a burgeoning movement that sought to challenge the established doctrines and practices of the Catholic Church. This movement, known as Lollardy, was deeply influenced by the teachings of John Wycliffe, an Oxford scholar and theologian. Wycliffe, who is often referred to as the morning star of the Reformation, which everyone says he totally didn't give himself that name, but I mean, who the fuck talks like that? So it was probably him that said that called himself that. He was a prolific writer and thinker. His teachings revolved around the primacy of the Bible over church traditions and his opposition to various church practices, particularly the selling of indulgences and the doctrine of transubstantiation. Yeah, I think I pronounced that right. Yeah, I got that right. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. One of Wycliffe's core beliefs was sola scriptura, the idea that scripture alone should guide the Christian beliefs and practices. This belief led him and his followers to undertake the monumental task of translating the Bible from Latin into vernacular English. This act democratized access to the Bible, allowing common people to read and interpret scripture for themselves. This also means the primary translation people had for a while was one guy's translation. Well, a few guys, and who knows how deep an understanding they had of the languages, and hopefully they had a pretty deep understanding, but it's like, I don't know. To me, that's a little silly where it wasn't like reviewed and then ran out again and then reviewed again. Michael was like, nah, we got to get this out, get this shit out. And that's what people had, which would lead to a lot of confusion, obviously. And honestly, I mean, people were confused just reading outright the Bible anyways in its original Latin, because they had no idea what the fuck some things meant. So I guess the confusion didn't matter. Everyone was always going to be confused with this shit. Wycliffe was a vocal critic of the opulence and wealth of the clergy. He believed that the church's vast land holdings and material wealth were contrary to the teachings of Christ. This stance resonated with many who felt that the church was more interested in amassing wealth than in tending to the spiritual needs of its flock. They weren't wrong, though. Christ literally told his followers to give up everything to follow him, and the popes and church leaders, after they were done being persecuted by the Romans, looked at the vineyards and the money the Roman pagan senators had and were like, but the Lord did say, the meek shall inherit the earth. So he must mean us, who are, who are so meek because of all the persecution and murdering the Romans did to us. We're the meek, so we got to inherit this. And then they went ahead and justified the money they took, and then their kids were like, well, I like this stuff, and it's my stuff now. I don't want to give it away. And that's essentially what happened. And you can go back and listen to the previous episodes, like Emperor Constantine. So it goes like Emperor Nero, Emperor Constantine, then the Byzantine Empire, and then Empress Irene, if you want to listen to all 4 of those episodes to get a bigger understanding of this. Anyways, Wycliffe's theological challenges didn't stop at scripture and church wealth. He also questioned the sacrament of the Eucharist, and the doctrine of transubstantiation, the belief that during Mass, the bread and wine become the actual body and blood of Christ. Essentially saying that if that were true, then why do I not shit out blood, skin, and bits of bone, or human meat? He probably took a look at his shit after Mass and was like, hold up. There's no blood in here. Kept waiting for a few days. Took another shit. Still no blood, no meat, no human meat, no bones. Maybe he only had a salad for those few days and, only shat out green leaves. And once he saw that, he was like, well, my system passed the green leaves. So where the fuck is the blood? Where's the meat? And also, if 1 million people ate it, how could we all have a bit of Christ's body at once? That doesn't make any fucking sense. That's like at least two of Christ's bodies at once with 1 million people eating it. So Wycliffe believed that the elements remained bread and wine in substance, though they might be spiritually significant. So it might matter. It's just more of a symbolic thing. Which, go ahead. The man used his fucking brain to realize that maybe Jesus told a lot of parables and metaphors, not literal fucking examples to teach lessons. So, that's kind of like the whole point. The term Lollard is believed to have been derived from the Middle Dutch word lollaard, meaning mumbler or mutterer. This was likely a derogatory term used by critics to describe how the group recited prayers or scriptures. They mumbled them. So as Lorardy grew in influence, so did the efforts of both church and state to suppress it. Many Lollards were branded as heretics, facing imprisonment, torture, and even execution. Because that's what Jesus wanted. Jesus, had people disagreeing with him, he killed them. All the time. What he did in the Bible. Go read it. Fuck you. Wycliffe himself is posthumously declared a heretic, with his writings banned and his remains exhumed and burned. That is fucking spiteful, man. They were like, fuck this guy. He's the cause of so many of our problems. Bring up his remains and ash him to death. No resurrection for this asshole. He asked too many fucking questions and tried to fucking answer them. So that's heretical. Anyways, while the Lollard movement was largely suppressed by the 15th century, its ideas persisted. The movement sowed seeds of dissent against the established church, which would come to fruition during the English Reformation in the 16th century. Lollardy can be seen as a precursor to the broader Protestant Reformation that swept across Europe a couple centuries later. Its emphasis on scripture and personal piety and criticism of clerical corruption found echoes in the teachings of Martin Luther, John Calvin, and other reformers. Anne Hudson, a prominent historian on Lollardy, observed Lollardy was not so much a heresy as a new religion, a religion which looked to the laity rather than the clergy, to the individual conscience rather than to the church for its guidance. You know how religion should be. It's a personal thing and really shouldn't interfere with other people's lives who don't want that relationship. Especially your friends and family who don't believe the way you do. You shouldn't judge them or not associate with them just because they don't believe in the same things. Jesus literally hung out with prostitutes and thieves and shit. He probably invited them to follow his way, but when they refused, he didn't get all uppity and say, well, fuck you then. Sorry. A lot of stuff bugs me with how people will treat others, especially their friends and family, based on their beliefs. Like you can be friends with someone for years, and because like you find out that they don't believe the same as you anymore, you abandon them. Shit pisses me off. That's so fucked. Don't do that. Be better. Be better than that, people. But yeah, there are good people in all places and sources of knowledge in all places as well. We shouldn't discount that ever. Okay, sorry. Mini rant ever. Over. There we go. So in the 1400s, we have the Renaissance and humanism. The Renaissance, often referred to as the Rebirth, was a vibrant period that spanned roughly from the 14th century to the 17th century. Emerging from the cultural centers of Italy, it spread across Europe, bringing with it a renewed passion for art, science, and the classics. Parallelly, humanism, a driving philosophy of the Renaissance, laid emphasis on the value and agency of human beings, just human beings, not just God. The cornerstone of the Renaissance was the rediscovery of ancient Greek and Roman texts. Scholars scoured monastic libraries, seeking manuscripts from antiquity. This renewed interest in classical literature, art, and knowledge challenged medieval norms and led to fresh perspectives on science, governance, and society. Because a lot of people have forgotten how things were back in the past. And humanism, with its emphasis on the study of humanities, which was grammar, rhetoric, history and poetry, and moral philosophy, advocated the potential for human achievement and improvement. Humanists believed in studying classical texts to improve and guide contemporary life. Renowned figures like Petrarch and Erasmus epitomized this movement. The Renaissance witnessed an unparalleled artistic explosion. Groundbreaking techniques in perspective, realism, and human anatomy were developed. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Titian, whatever, fucking some Italian artistic asshole. They push boundaries, creating works that remain iconic to this day. In the art world, they are literally referred to as the masters. These guys were so good at this shit that in the year of our Lord 2023, many still consider them to be the near pinnacle of art. That's how good they were. Crazy shit, man. The period also fostered a renewed spirit of scientific inquiry. Nicholas Copernicus, such a fun name, Nicolaus. I know, but like it should be Nicolaus Copernicus, but like Nicholas Copernicus is just so fun to say. Anyways, he introduced the heliocentric model, challenging the church-backed geocentric view. Later figures like Galileo and Kepler would further this astronomical revolution. Okay, and then we have the printing press revolution as well. So Johannes Gutenberg's invention of the movable type printing press around 1440 was a technological marvel that reshaped Europe's cultural landscape. The mass production of books made knowledge more accessible, reducing its cost and increasing its availability. This facilitated the rapid spread of new ideas and made possible the widespread dissemination of works like the Gutenberg Bible. And then we have the challenges to the church that happened because of this. So the Renaissance and humanism fostered a more critical view of the church. The emphasis on individual achievement and potential sometimes clashed with the church's teachings. More than sometimes, most of the time, because it pissed off people who were in power. They don't want people getting all uppity and thinking they're good without them. That ruins the scam, essentially. Furthermore, the return to original biblical sources made possible by the printing press and classical scholarship laid bare various discrepancies in church practices. It essentially allowed everyone to scrutinize this shit way more, and anytime the church went against something in the Bible, the people could now be like, hey now, the Bible says you shouldn't do this, but you are literally doing it. And it would force the church to say, well, it's just one interpretation. Let's not get all up in arms about how people interpret things. And then, the church would get mad at people who interpreted things differently than how they did. Oh, I gotta love hypocrisy. During this time, we had a lot of literature and philosophy as well. Renaissance literature, influenced heavily by humanism, often tackled themes of human potential, worldly pleasures like threesomes and ass eating, and individual achievement. Moreover, the era produced philosophical giants like Machiavelli, whose book, The Prince, offered a secular approach to governance and statecraft, diverging from religious prescriptions. And then again, this had a huge impact on education. The humanist belief in a well-rounded education led to the establishment of new schools and curricula, emphasizing the classics and the humanities. That this transformed European education and sowed the seeds for modern liberal arts studies. This is what would lead to us getting smarter and getting the fuck out of the Dark Ages. So, while the Renaissance began as a cultural and artistic movement, its effects permeated every aspect of society. It's at the stage for the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment eras that would further challenge traditional sources of authority and knowledge. Historian Paul Johnson, reflecting on the era, remarked, "The Renaissance teaches us the rules of the game of Western civilization and humanism. The revival of learning it brought about and set standards for all subsequent Western culture." And it's very true. We have the Renaissance to thank for us living in a society where you can listen to this podcast now. Without the Renaissance, we'd probably barely be getting into making nukes now. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows how long they could have kept the charade up for as long as they did. But then in 1517, this is when the Protestant Reformation begins. It was a seismic shift in Christian history, which began in earnest in 1517. Its origins are intertwined with Martin Luther, an Augustinian monk and professor at the University of Wittenberg. He took a bold step that would shake the foundations of Christendom. On October 31st of 1517, Halloween, y'all motherfuckers, whoop whoop, Martin Luther reportedly nailed his 95 Thesis to the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany. Which, by the way, wouldn't that be like such a way more fun tradition if like all of us, instead of like going trick-or-treating, we went over to the Catholic Church and nailed a bunch of problems that we have with it on their doors, like just all over the world. I don't know. I think that'd be kind of cool. That'd be a really neat tradition. Like, and it causes everyone to have to like look at it and scrutinize it more and more and more daily until they're wiped out. And like everyone's realizing how much of a crock of shit they are. The church and the leaders who, abuse people. Not the people itself. People who want to believe in Catholicism. Well, you could just believe in God and be fine. You don't have to necessarily be Catholic. But I guess if Catholic fits your worldview more and like some of its teachings more than others, then I kind of get it. It's like you don't necessarily believe with everything, and you're not okay with what they're doing to other people. I know that, but goddamn, man, it's just for like so long. It's been awful. Sorry, I have issues again. And then also, in addition to nailing his issues on the church doors, Martin Luther, central to his grievance was the sale of indulgences, particularly as championed by Johann Tetzel, who was a Dominican friar. Tetzel's famous phrase, "As soon as a coin in the coffer rings, a soul from purgatory springs," became emblematic of what Luther viewed as a corrupt system. Luther argued that salvation could not be purchased and was, instead, a free gift from God. I mean, like, what a tagline, though. As soon as a coin in the coffer rings, a soul from purgatory springs. So good. So fucking good. Was it a corrupt or, just a good business tagline? See, if we as people just look at the Catholic Church as a business who gets to be tax-free for some reason, man, what a great fucking business model. They essentially set up video game battle passes, but for heaven. They were so far ahead of their time if we think about it. And then multiple other churches would follow in this thought as well, making up their own battle passes. I mean, even the LDS Church has an unspoken one where if you make enough money and pay enough tithing, eventually you'll get a really cool vase. That means you're guaranteed a spot in the celestial kingdom. And you can't fuck up anymore because you have that vase. How cool is that? Definitely super Christ-like and doesn't go against any of his teachings. Or let some random people be above his sacrifice he made for everyone because everyone is a sinner and fucks up from time to time. But no. If you make enough money and pay for the church that these guys say is 100% his only true church, then you shouldn't have to worry about repenting. You pay for our cool shit, and so you're good. Trust me, bro. Fucking hate that so much. Luther posited several revolutionary ideas that went beyond just the issue of indulgences. He emphasized sola scriptura as the foundation of Christian belief, challenged the church's 7 sacraments by highlighting only 2, the baptism and the Eucharist, sacrament, and argued for the priesthood of all believers, rejecting the hierarchical clerical structure of the church, essentially saying, hey, this homoerotic yet homo-intolerant boys club you've got going on is fucking weird, guys. The printing press, a relatively recent invention, played a pivotal role in the spread of Luther's ideas. Copies of the 95 theses and his subsequent writings were rapidly disseminated across Europe, finding audiences that resonated with his calls for reform. He essentially went viral with that shit, and it spread like a wildfire, which would lead to a super rational response by the church, who were totally cool with him saying that shit. They're super cool with it. Like, yeah, you know what? He can just say what he wants. I'm the freaking the Pope. No, the church was swift in its reaction. Pope Leo X issued a papal bull, which threatened Luther with excommunication unless he recanted. He's like, you better shut it the fuck up or I excommunicate you. Luther refused, and his public burning of the bull set him irrevocably against the church. Fucking burnt that shit. He's like, this means nothing to me. Later, at the Diet of Worms in 1521, Luther famously declared before the Holy Roman Emperor, Charles V, "Here I stand. I can do no other." So, Luther's challenge ignited a series of reforms across Europe. From his teachings emerged the Lutheran tradition. Simultaneously, other reformers, such as John Calvin and Ulrich Zwingli, introduced their interpretations, leading to the formation of the Calvinist and Anabaptist denominations. This fragmentation marked the end of the church's religious monopoly in Western Europe. The church was no longer in charge over there. There's a bunch of, new faiths for people to explore and try out. They didn't necessarily have all the world under their thumb anymore. The Reformation had profound cultural implications. It promoted literacy, as believers were encouraged to read the Bible for themselves. It also shifted power dynamics, as local princes and kings used the Reformation to assert independence from the Pope, leading to both religious wars and the rise of nation states. The church would lose power, while the masses would grow enlightened and be less like sheep, to be herded by some old asshole in a silly hat, and instead let themselves be led by some other old asshole with a weapon, and probably still a silly hat. The Reformation laid the groundwork for religious freedom and individual consciousness's primacy. It also set the stage for subsequent movements from the Enlightenment to modern evangelical Christianity. Historian Diarmaid MacCulloch noted the Reformation was about ideas and power, but it was also about real human lives. It touched every person in Europe. This sentiment aptly captures the profound and multifaceted impact of Martin Luther's transformative act in 1517. And then, in the 1530s, we have the English Reformation. The 1530s witnessed a profound transformation of religious and political landscapes in England. What started as a royal quest for a male heir morphed into a religious revolution, resulting in England's break from the Catholic Church and the establishment of the Church of England, with the monarch at its helm. The spark for the English Reformation was Henry VIII's growing desperation for a male heir. He kept fucking, just couldn't get one. So, real sad. His wife, Catherine of Aragon, son of Denethor. No, I'm just kidding. No, I know that's not Aragon's actual parent's name. I'm not that big of a Lord of the Rings nerd. I should probably actually know that, though, because I actually really do like that series. Anyways, Catherine of Aragon had failed to provide Henry VIII with a surviving son. So Henry sought annulment of the marriage, thinking, it's obviously the woman's fault, arguing that their union was cursed due to her prior marriage to his late brother. Which, to be fair, that's kind of fucked that he married her. And yeah, he probably shouldn't have married her. It's a little fucked up. But the Pope's refusal to grant the annulment sent Henry on a collision course with Rome. So, utilizing the English Parliament, Henry enacted a series of laws to reduce papal influence. The Act in Restraint of Appeals in 1533 declared England as an empire, free from external authorities or jurisdictions. And then we have the Act of Supremacy in 1534, which confirmed Henry as the supreme head of the Church of England, officially severing ties with Rome. Henry was like, well, if the Pope won't let me divorce my wife, I guess I better make myself the Pope, and then divorced and eventually beheaded a couple of his wives' heads. A true precursor to our modern day Ed Kemper. He probably had those heads collected afterwards and fucked them or something. I don't know. Anyway, between 1536 and 1540, under the guidance of Henry's chief minister, Thomas Cromwell, monastic institutions across England were dissolved. Monasteries, convents, and religious houses were closed down, their lands and treasures appropriated by the crown. This action not only crippled the old religious order, but also enriched the royal coffers and provided assets to reward loyalists. And essentially, Henry realized the church had money and land that he protected and was like, well, I could just take that money, right? And then did. Smart king, to be honest. He thought about shit and was like, oh, I could just take it. And he took it. He's also a bit of an asshole. I might go over his life more in depth later, too. So while the initial break with Rome was more political than theological, religious changes soon followed. The 10 Articles in 1536 and then the 6 Articles in 1539 attempted to define the doctrine of the Church of England. And by 1549, during the reign of Henry's son, Edward VI, the Book of Common Prayer was introduced, standardizing Anglican worship. So then we have the Reformation. That was not universally accepted. There was a bit of oscillating going on in England here. There were uprisings such as the Pilgrimage of Grace in 1536, when Northern Catholics rebelled against religious changes. Following Henry's death, England saw a religious pendulum swing. His son Edward VI leaned Protestant, while his daughter Mary I, known as Bloody Mary, returned England to Catholicism with fervor. Straight up was, there's a reason why she was called Bloody Mary. Murdered some bitches. And then it was under Elizabeth I that a middle path, the Elizabethan settlement, was forged, establishing the Protestant Church of England, which is essentially just diet Catholicism. That's all it is. It's diet Catholicism. The Reformation influenced all facets of English life. English replaced Latin in church services, making them more accessible. The emphasis on reading the Bible in English boosted literacy rates, primarily due to the fact the Bible was the most printed thing in the world at the time and was easy enough for most peasants to get their hands on, so they could sit down and actually trust to fucking read something before getting their hands chopped off for stealing a book. Moreover, the redistribution of the monastic lands led to significant societal and economic shift, empowering a new class of gentry. The establishment of the Church of England set the stage for further religious dissent and the eventual rise of Puritanism. Furthermore, as English explorers and settlers ventured to the New World, they brought with them Anglican beliefs which would profoundly influence the religious landscape of colonies, especially in North America. Historian A.G. Dickens commented on the era, stating the English Reformation was a high political adventure, a contest of the grossest material interests, a seedbed of novel social and economic forces, a process of state formation, a piece of successful imperialism, and the beginning of a long religious and cultural tradition. That being said, let's kind of get a little more into the Puritan origins. The Puritans were deeply dissatisfied with Elizabethan religious settlement. They kind of were a little pissed about her, essentially doing diet Catholicism. They felt that the Church of England retained too many remnants of Catholicism in its liturgy, ceremonies, and episcopal governance. They advocated for a simplified form of worship and a more congregational form of church governance, wherein individual congregations would have greater autonomy from bishops. Kind of like, states versus federal with some laws there. You're like, the heads of the church should be, just kind of have general stuff, and the congregations should have a, much more autonomy over like how they practice, and, should be able to decide the laws for themselves. And so, just shit like that. Stuff that totally didn't impact America in the future. As the Puritan movement grew, so did its challenges. Elizabeth I and subsequently James I viewed religious uniformity as essential to political stability. Consequently, Puritans faced a series of suppressive measures. Non-conforming ministers were often silenced, suspended, or ousted. By the 1590s, a group of separatist Puritans believed that the Church of England was beyond reform and chose to break away, a decision that led to heightened persecution. Despite the risks, Puritans regularly gathered for what they considered proper worship. These meetings, often held in secret to avoid detection, emphasized Bible readings, sermons, and communal discussions. In essence, they mirrored what Puritans believed was the early Christian church's practice, a community of believers seeking mutual edification, devoid of popish ceremonies that the Catholics had set up over the last century, millennia, really, at that point. Intriguingly, the very structure of Puritan congregations bore the seeds of democratic governance. Congregants had a voice in choosing their ministers, and church decisions were often made collectively. These practices were at odds with the hierarchical nature of the Church of England and the monarchy. The emphasis on individual conscience and interpretation of the Bible laid the foundation for ideas about personal liberty and governance that would later influence political thought. Honestly, a lot of their early ideas would last even up into the modern era of American governance. Take, for example, the letter sent to a bishop in Wiltshire from a Puritan explaining how they would like their religious governance to work. Let me read this. To the esteemed Bishop Balthazar of Wiltshire, I hope this missive finds you in good health and spirits. In light of recent discussions on our congregational governance, I felt it necessary to elucidate some thoughts that have been gathering steam amongst our brethren. You see, we've been pondering a more democratic structure for our congregation. First and foremost, we believe that just as we select our ministers, we should have bishops, but also quote-unquote super bishops. These super bishops would be chosen, of course, not by divine intervention nor by public consensus, but by special committees. Let's call them Puritan Action Committees, or PACs for short. Furthermore, it has come to our attention that some of our brethren with considerable wealth and landholdings, the quote-unquote job creators, if you will, should have a say in blocking certain religious edicts. For instance, if an archbishop, whom we could also call a governor of the holy, decrees that the Lord finds the planting of a certain bean to be unholy, those with significant investments in bean farms should be able to, how shall I put it, lobby against such revelations. After all, their contributions to our society are vast and their pockets are deep. And as the good book might have said, blessed are the wealthy, for they shall have a say in pretty much everything. Additionally, we're considering the idea of dark alms. This would be where our wealthier members could anonymously contribute to the parks, ensuring that their spiritual interests are always put front and center, without any of the pesky accountability. To sum it up, while we seek a break from the hierarchical nature of the church, we certainly wouldn't mind borrowing some modern structures. Imagine, dear Bishop, a church where divine revelation have to pass through 2 chambers of holy men before becoming edicts, and where any revelation can be vetoed if it doesn't align with the interests of our most influential members. A truly democratic and fair process, wouldn't you agree? Eagerly awaiting your thoughts on these modest proposals. Yours in reform and innovation, Jedediah Pemberley, a humble servant of the Lord and believer in a more democratic church. Thank you. Makes me realize that maybe I was wrong about these super PACs being a more modern idea. I guess they kind of thought of it already. So everything that's been done has already been done already by people in the past. Anyway. Now we have the journey to the New World. So facing increasing persecution and limited ability to reform the church from within, some Puritans began to entertain the idea of leaving England. They envisioned establishing a new society based on the religious principles. This dream eventually culminated in the famous journey of the Mayflower in 1620, which we'll get into a little bit more later. The Puritan emphasis on communal decision-making, individual rights in the context of a community, and covenanted relationships had a lasting impact on the development of American political thought. As Puritan communities in the New World drafted compacts and established town meetings, these democratic ideals became embedded in the colonies' governance structures. This influence is palpable in the founding documents of the United States and the country's early democratic institutions. Historian Perry Miller once noted, Puritanism was one of the major expressions of Western intellect, and highlighted its profound impact on shaping the American mind. Indeed, the Puritan legacies intertwine not only with religious fervor, but also with the foundational principles of American governance. We have Puritans to thank for, separate parties ruling. Kind of, actually. We'll get into that a little more. Okay. Okay, now we're about to get into the life of Hutchinson and William Bradford. But let's get into the religious landscape of England real quick, just to brief overview of that all. The late 16th century England was a time of profound religious turmoil and transformation, right? With the death of Henry VIII and with Edward VI and the Protestant push, and everyone essentially oscillating back and forth between all these different religions, we had a bunch of persecution going on because a lot of it was viewed as dissent and rebellion when they wouldn't go to the same church. And so both the Puritans and separatists would face persecution. The government, fearing that religious dissent could lead to political instability or foreign intervention, enacted laws that penalized nonconformity. Which reminds me of essentially what every other leader in the history of forever has done, regardless of race or religion. They don't care about what's right. They care about control, which should be obvious to people, but a lot of people don't like to read or use critical thinking skills to discern the shit that's going on today has been going on since the dawn of civilization. And eventually a new leadership will rise up and try to take over, but unfortunately for our time, we have the risk of nukes and actually ending humanity if we fight back against the people in power. Which, I like to think America, Russia, nor China would nuke its own people and damage its natural resources. But when their governments view their citizens as tools and numbers, but not actual other human beings, it does make me a little worried. Anyways, back to the main topic. Attendance at the official Church of England services was mandatory, and fines were levied against those who abstained. This is something we did change here in America and have found somewhat small but relative peace in by allowing multiple religions to exist at once. I mean, back in the day, those religions were only allowed if you essentially just worshiped Jesus and only diverged on one or two talking points. But that's besides the point. That doesn't matter right now. So today in America and most other modern countries, I can worship a flying spaghetti monster if I want, and that is pretty damn cool. Okay, and then the religious upheavals were intertwined with social and economic changes. The dissolution of monasteries under Henry VIII had redistributed vast tracts of land, creating a new class of wealthy gentry. This group, often more independent-minded, became vital players in the religious debates of the era. They felt more empowered to speak up against other people because they had money. When you have money and power, you feel like you can talk a little more shit. That is very true, even in today's age. So, great. By the end of the 16th century, many were growing disillusioned with the religious status quo in England. Figures like William Bradford and Anne Hutchinson, born into this milieu, would come of an age in England where seeking religious purity could mean persecution, exile, or a perilous journey to unknown shores. So as the 1600s dawned, England's gaze started to turn westward to the Americas. This new world, with its vast lands and promise of a fresh start, began to beckon those seeking both economic opportunity and religious freedom. The seeds were being sown for the Pilgrim's famous voyage aboard the Mayflower and the establishment of the colonies where religious experiments could flourish. Experiments like sex cults and doomsday sex cults, and cults that tell you sex is bad, but the leader needs to have sex with you because some angel came down and threatened them with a sword, I guess, type of cult. The more I think about it, I really think America was just founded by a bunch of really horny white people. Not founded, but, conquered by a bunch of really horny white people that England just got tired of dealing with, essentially. So, my conclusion of all this, it really, this era sets the stage for some of the most pivotal moments in religious history and political history, as politics and religion are heavily intertwined during this time. That's how you kept people in control. That's how kings, emperors, priests, everybody kept people in control, was through religion. And so it was clearly political too. And it had always been. Okay, now we're finally here to William Bradford's birth in 1590. He was born in March of 1590, and William Bradford would become one of the most significant figures in the early history of America. However, his origins were humble, deeply rooted in a tumultuous England racked by religious strife. His early life and experiences would shape his destiny and influence the course of New England's development. Bradford was born in the small farming community of Austerfield, Yorkshire. His early years were marked by tragedy. By the age of 7, Bradford was orphaned, having lost both parents and his grandfather. This series of unfortunate events left him in the care of his 2 lovely uncles, who were then subsequently murdered by a remote ship bombardment while they were visiting Syria for a religious trip. R.I.P. Super Mega. I miss you, boys. Daddy gives you kisses when I can. If you haven't heard of Two Lovely Uncles by Super Mega, I suggest you go look it up on YouTube. Seriously, stop listening to this and go look up Two Lovely Uncles. Great song. I mean, obviously kidding about the Bradfords, Two Lovely Uncles dying, but he was actually orphaned, which is hilarious. And his uncles did raise him. From a young age, Bradford was introduced to the religious debates of the time. Yorkshire, with its rural expanses, had become a hotbed for religious dissent. Many were discontented with the Church of England's perceived superficial reforms and sought a return to a more primitive form of Christianity. It was in this atmosphere that Bradford was introduced to the separatist beliefs. At the tender age of 12, young Bradford, seeking solace and purpose after the losses he had suffered, again due to the remote bombardment strikes in Syria, was drawn to a group of separatists in nearby Scrooby. Okay, sorry, I'm just cracking up over the idea that 16th century England had the capability to remotely bombard Syria. Like they had a Trojan horse ship and a cartoonishly long rope that once it reached Syria would go taut and ignite the ship's cannons and explosives or something. It just fucking blew everyone up over there. I don't know why I find that funny, but I do, so enjoy that imagery. Long-ass rope going over multiple, I guess like a big chunk of sea, a couple countries probably, and then it just pulls and boom, explodes Syria. Anyways, the separatist groups were led by figures like Richard Clifton and John Robinson. The separatists held clandestine meetings, often in the Scrooby-Dooby manner, to worship as they believed the early Christians did, and did their best to unmask the truths of the Bible. Eventually serving as the historical basis for the world-famous cartoon series Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, which was created in 1969. The show would base its mascot's name off of this historical manner, and due to the nature of the group's Bible truth unmasking, so to speak, the writers would be inspired by this and some crime radio talk shows to turn their cast into crime solvers. Very interesting. The Scrooby congregation, like other separatists, faced severe persecution. The English authorities, determined to maintain religious uniformity, viewed these independent congregations as threats to both the church and state. Bradford and his fellow believers often faced fines, imprisonment, or worse for their nonconformity. Also, I really hope a bunch of you paused and looked up the origins and inspiration for Scooby-Doo and realized I'm fucking with you. That or you texted a friend saying, "Oh man, you won't believe the shit that I just learned." If you fell for it, please let me know. I will find it hilarious. Like, no, seriously, like email me at historicalquarrels@gmail.com and tell me, because like I want to hear your story about you fucking up and believing that shit. The manor was actually just called the Scrooby Manor, not the Scrooby-Dooby Manor. And Scooby-Doo's name was based off of a scat Frank Sinatra would do at the end of the song Strangers in the Night. Which if you didn't know, Dad, now you know the real truth for Scooby-Doo's origins. So, you're welcome. Bradford's personal writings, which would later become part of his famous work of Plymouth Plantation, shed light on his deep religious convictions. He believed in the doctrine of predestination, the idea that God had preordained certain individuals for salvation. These beliefs were reinforced by his own life experiences, seeing the hand of providence in his survival and the challenges he overcame. Which, honestly, if you went through the shit that Bradford went through, by the time, like, I kind of get why he believed that. He's like, I mean, at this point, God is just like having me live for some purpose. I mean, after he was orphaned, you know, everyone else died in his family, and then he travels to America and more people die. It's just, yeah. Anyways, as persecution intensified, Bradford and the Scrooby congregation made a fateful decision. They resolved to leave England in search of a place where they could worship freely. Initially, they attempted to emigrate to the Dutch Republic. Their first attempt in Bradford in 1607 was thwarted, and many were temporarily imprisoned. Even the 12-year-old. I'm kidding, they did imprison, but undeterred, by 1609, Bradford, along with a portion of the Scrooby congregation, successfully relocated to Amsterdam and later Leiden in the Netherlands. Bradford's years in Leiden were transformative. He apprenticed as a silk weaver, honing a trade and immersing himself in the bustling life of a cosmopolitan city. While in Leiden, he married Dorothy May, with whom he would have a son, John. Yet, despite the relative religious freedom they enjoyed, Bradford and his congregation felt culturally alienated and worried about the loss of their English identity. This was mainly because of how fucking confusing the rules for de and het are in Dutch, which both mean the in English, but one is for gender-neutral words, and the other one you use for masculine or feminine words. Which, since I learned Spanish, I understand that to a degree, but what the hell, you Dutch bastards? Couldn't you just pick one to stick with at that point then? Like, you had to just complicate the language like a little more to make it harder for outsiders to join in your little de and het circles? Fucking Dutch assholes. Hate them. I hate all Dutch people. My wife is super Dutch, by the way, but doesn't speak Dutch, much like how I'm very Norwegian and don't speak Norwegian. We're both American. You know. Sad. Anyways, the dissonance would set the stage for the Scrooby group's eventual journey to the New World. And really, here we can see his early life, marked by personal loss, religious fervor, and the quest for freedom, prepared him for a leadership role he would assume in the New World. His steadfastness, resilience, and deep faith would become touchstones for the Pilgrim community as they embarked on their historic venture aboard the Mayflower. Before we get to that, let's get to Anne Hutchinson, right? So in 1591, just a year after Bradford's birth, another future icon of early American religious and political history was born, Anne Hutchinson. Her story would be markedly different from Bradford's, but equally influential. Hutchinson's early experiences in England would serve as a backdrop for her eventual challenges to religious orthodoxy in the New World. Anne Hutchinson was born Anne Marbury in Alford, Lincolnshire, in July 1591. She hailed from a family of some distinction. Her father, Francis Marbury, was a cleric, schoolteacher, and a vocal critic of the poorly educated clergy of the Church of England. Her mother, Bridget Dryden, came from a family with connections to the gentry. Benefiting from her father's position and beliefs, Anne received an education that was exceptional for women of her time. Francis Marbury ensured that his daughter was well versed in the classics, theology, and the Bible. This education fostered in Anne a deep intellectual curiosity and a critical mind. Anne grew up in a time when England was rife with religious debates and dissent. The Elizabethan settlement had established a moderate form of Protestantism, but tensions bubbled beneath the surface. There were those who, like the Puritans, believed the church needed further reformation. Concurrently, there were also Catholics who had hoped for a return to Roman Catholicism. You know, you had essentially here we had the, let's say, left-leaning Reformationists and the right-leaning Catholics bickering and squabbling about politics and religion, which is something I'm so happy hasn't bled over into modern times. In 1612, at the age of 21, Anne married William Hutchinson, a merchant. Together, they would have a large family of 15 children, which I have watched my wife give birth, and my God, that poor woman's vagina. She must have been doing some early form of Kegels or something to keep everything from spilling out after number 5. God damn, that's a strong woman. Also, I know the vagina tightens on its own, but you know, things do stretch and get a little loosey-goosey over time. And I imagine after 15 kids, she'd have to do something to keep things a little tighter. It's like, goddamn, 15 kids, that's a lot. William's profession provided a comfortable living for the Hutchinsons, and the couple became respected members of their community. Their home would often become a gathering place for discussions on religious matters, a precursor to the more formal meetings Anne would later hold in American colonies. Anne's deep religious convictions were influenced by her early education and the broader religious debates of her time. She came to embrace the idea of a covenant of grace rather than a covenant of works. In essence, she believed salvation was a direct gift from God and could not be earned through good deeds or strict adherence to religious rituals. She couldn't just pray away her sin. She realized that it was only through God's grace that she was going to be cleaned and forgiven. And God had already given that to people. And then the early 1630s, Anne became an ardent follower of John Cotton, who was a charismatic Puritan minister in nearby Boston, Lincolnshire. Cotton's teachings, which emphasized the importance of an inner grace, resonated with Anne. When Cotton emigrated to the Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1633, due to increasing pressures against non-conforming ministers, the Hutchinsons took notice and were like, we got to get the fuck out of here. So, these years were very foundational for Anne. The seeds were being sown for her eventual journey to the New World. Her early life in England was a tapestry of intellectual exploration, deep faith, and engagement with the pressing religious questions of her day. These formative experiences would profoundly shape her role in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, where she would become both a beacon of religious freedom and a symbol of the challenges faced by dissenting voices. Okay, so now we have the Mayflower journey and Bradford's role. So, the year 1620 stands as a pivotal moment in the annals of American history. The Mayflower's voyage with William Bradford, as one of its leading figures, would become emblematic of the pursuit of religious freedom and the birth of a new nation. The journey, fraught with challenges, was marked by determination, leadership, and an unwavering faith. Departing from Plymouth, England, in September 1620, the Mayflower carried 102 passengers, including both separatists, whom history would come to remember as the Pilgrims, and others seeking new opportunities in America. Bradford, already a significant figure within the separatist community, poised to play a crucial role in the unfolding story of the Plymouth colony. While journeying out there, the separatists and Pilgrims would pass the time on their months-long voyage by playing games, drinking, and surprisingly, singing. Little known fact, the Pilgrims, a good amount of whom were Puritans, actually had a fondness for sea shanties and would sing them to pass time throughout the day while a bunch of their friends were dying of disease on the trip. Really interesting sea shanty that was preserved, I've decided to recreate for you here. Just give me a second. In 1620, with hope in our sail, we ventured forth, leaving behind a sad tale. To lands of the free, where our dreams might take wing, yet carrying with us a very certain thing. Yo-ho, together we stride to lands where freedom does surely reside. People, where all are free to perceive, as long as their hearts in our truth believe. A horizon beckon, a promise so sweet, a place for our faith where new souls will meet, dreaming of harmony where all can belong. So yeah, I mean, besides that terrible recreation of Hoist the Colors by Hans Zimmerman, you know, totally something they would sing. I could totally see that. And if you want to listen to the rest of it, at least the rest of the dumb lyrics I came up with, it's basically just them saying they can't wait to be intolerant to flee intolerance at the same time. I'll put it at the very end of the episode after all the music and stuff's played. And you can listen to it. And if you don't want to, you get to avoid it that way. So go you. So anyways, we get to the signing of the Mayflower Compact now. And upon reaching the New World, it became clear that the Mayflower had landed north of its intended destination, placing the settlers outside the jurisdiction of any established English colony. To ensure order and unity, the male passengers crafted and signed the Mayflower Compact, a brief document that underscored their commitment to form a civil body politic and obey just and equal laws. Bradford, as one of the signatories, recognized the compact's significance. It was a seminal step toward self-governance, born out of necessity and mutual agreement. It was a way they could all ensure no one was going to be an asshole to each other. The initial months in Plymouth were harrowing. With the onset of winter, the settlers were ill-prepared to face the harsh conditions. Lacking proper shelter and weakened by the transatlantic voyage, nearly half of the Mayflower's passengers, including Bradford's wife, Dorothy, succumbed to an illness and malnutrition. Which, man, this motherfucker had it rough. First, he got orphaned as a young kid. Then, his two lovely uncles were remotely bombed in Syria. And now his wife is dying of disease. You know, it makes me wonder how these deaths kept happening around him. Were they actually accidents? Or casualties of war? Or was Bradford secretly one of the most vicious and brutal serial killers we have ever known? Did his wife die to malnutrition? Well, some of the passengers say his wife had appeared healthy, and then the next day, seemingly out of nowhere, appeared pale and sickly. Was she sick? Or did Bradford finally reveal his true nature to her, telling her he had kept his bloodlust in check during the trip, to not draw suspicions to himself, but now he needed to kill. And he had hoped she'd be okay with it. Maybe, she'll help him. But when she appeared sick, maybe Bradford realized he had to kill her to keep her mouth shut. After all, he couldn't have other people know that what he was. That or she just died of disease. And I'm a little mad at myself for not doing a true crime story as good as I could have last week. And so I am trying to compensate here. But we don't know. We weren't there. So, don't question it. The Mayflower community was on the brink, relying heavily on its leaders for guidance and perseverance. In the wake of the first governor's untimely death, John Carver, leadership of the fledgling Plymouth colony fell to William Bradford in 1621. At only 30 years of age, Bradford's resilience, wisdom, and sense of duty were put to the test. Drawing from his deep religious convictions and experiences in England and the Netherlands, he navigated the colony through its most precarious early days, murdering as he saw fit, and having everyone write that the deaths were due to disease or native attacks, and no one dared defy King Bradford. Again, or many of them died due to disease and improper nutrition. But do you really want to believe what the textbooks tell you, or are you willing to look for the truth? And that truth is that William Bradford has been secretly ruling America for the past 400 years as a semi-immortal space vampire that feeds on the blood of children in Massachusetts, after having sacrificed enough of them to his evil dark god, Scrooby-Doo. All praise Scrooby-Doo, Lord of terror and fear. Thy will be done, O dark one, whose power is as vast as the void itself. Bradford's vision for Plymouth went beyond mere survival. He aimed to create a community where his fellow believers could practice their faith freely, while also cultivating peaceful relations with native inhabitants. Under his leadership, the settlers forged a crucial alliance with the Wampanoag people, exemplified by the friendship with Chief Massasoit. This bond proved invaluable, with natives offering vital guidance on local agricultural and trade. It's weird how befriending people who lived there first can help you survive a new land that you know nothing about. Looking at you, conquistadors. Fucking assholes. Also, I kind of went hard there with the whole dark god Scrooby-Doo, but I really want that to be a thing in historical quarrels. We're just gonna have a evil vampire god named Scrooby-Doo. It's great. Anyways, through his writings, particularly of Plymouth Plantation, Bradford provided a first-hand account of the Mayflower journey and the colony's early years. He viewed their experiences as emblematic of a divine providence, a belief that God was guiding their path. Challenges, from the perilous voyage to the brutal winters, were tests of faith. And it's always a test of faith. I understand people's faith or belief in something did help them push through back in the day, and probably still today, but goddamn, why would an all-loving God test you like that? Like killing your wife, your two lovely uncles, and orphaning you at an early age. I don't know. It seems more like he just set the rules for nature into your body, and maybe he just made the rules and then dipped. And now we've got to figure this shit out. It's not really a test as much as it's just life and shit happens. Whatever, it's fine. People believe what they believe, and that belief isn't harming anyone. So, in the face of adversity, Bradford often sought solace in scripture and saw the colony's survival and growth as a testament to their covenant with God. So really, we can see this journey and the foundation of Plymouth colony that are very deeply intertwined with William Bradford's leadership and vision. His unwavering commitment to his community, coupled with his reflective writings, offers profound insights into the struggles, beliefs, and aspirations that underpinned his seminal chapter in American history, as well as how these separatists' firm belief in God and beliefs in how early Christianity was ran impacted the Mayflower Compact, and eventually these would lead to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Okay, So now we're up to the 1630s. I mean, you're kind of already in there, but this is now Anne Hutchinson's arrival. So the 1630s in Massachusetts Bay was a time of consolidation, religious fervor, and increasing challenges to established orthodoxy. Among those pushing boundaries was Anne Hutchinson, whose arrival would set in motion one of the most significant religious controversies of early American history. When Anne Hutchinson arrived in Massachusetts Bay in 1634, the colony was still in its infancy. Having been founded just 4 years earlier, the settlement was designed as a city upon a hill, a beacon of Puritan religious purity, led by Governor John Winthrop. The colony adhered strictly to its religious tenets and was wary of dissent that might fracture the community. You know, like how the Church of England and its leaders were worried that the Puritans and their dissent might fracture the community. But they had it right, so it was okay if they were wary of dissent. You know, no one else could be. Anne, along with her husband, William, and their children, settled in Boston. With her charismatic personality, deep knowledge of Scripture, and commitment to the principles of the Covenant of Grace, Hutchinson quickly garnered respect and influence. She began hosting weekly meetings in her home, where she discussed recent sermons and offered her interpretations of Scripture. My God, what's with the yawning, Tyler? Get a hold of yourself, man. Sorry. Okay. Hutchinson's meetings, initially small and informal, grew in size and significance. They became venues where the colony's religious orthodoxy was dissected and sometimes challenged. Hutchinson was a proponent of the Covenant of Grace, as opposed to the Covenant of Works, a distinction that placed her at odds with some of the colony's leading ministers. Really pissed them off. She believed that salvation was a direct gift from God, based on faith alone, rather than earned through good deeds. I don't agree with either side, really, but her interpretation is a little more closely aligned with, honestly, what the Bible says about Christ's sacrifice, as all you had to do was have faith in him and you were saved back then. I mean, and still are saved if you have faith in him. So, I don't know. It just seems a little more correct. I don't know why I'm yawning so much, and sorry if it bugs you guys, but, you know, you're going to yawn with me in about 30 seconds. So as her influence grew, Hutchinson was accused of promoting antinomianism, a heretical belief that Christians were not bound by moral law if they experienced a revelation of grace. Her teachings were seen as undermining the colony's religious and, by extension, political foundations. Again, these political foundations they had set up were all basically based on their religion. The leaders feared that her ideas, if unchecked, could lead to anarchy against them, both spiritual and civil. She was a witch. Burn her! I mean, they didn't burn her. They did banish her eventually. We'll get into that. So despite the growing criticism from the colony's religious establishment, Hutchinson's influence expanded. Notably, she garnered the support of influential figures like Sir Henry Vane, a governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Oh, gosh, dang! Her meetings, once reserved for women, began to attract men. I mean, because she was attractive. For a 46-year-old who pumped out 15 kids, that pussy was tight. Further exacerbating the concerns of the religious elite, because she was influencing men who now could stand up to them, not just the women, which they weren't as worried about, because, you know, what could women do? Fucking misogynistic pigs. Hate them. Anyways, the tensions came to a head in 1637 in her trial. So let's go ahead and get to that. The trial of Anne Hutchinson and the Massachusetts Bay Colony stands as one of the most dramatic confrontations in early American religious history. Taking on the very leaders of the communities she lived in, Hutchinson's trial underscored the fragile balance between religious freedom and established orthodoxy. Also, we do have the full transcript available, at least what has been preserved of the transcript of the court proceedings for her trial. I highly recommend you just Google Anne Hutchinson trial transcript and then give it a read. It's about 17 pages. She rips them apart, basically. She keeps trying to get them to be like, so what crime am I committing? And then the governor's like, well, you're doing this and this. And then she's like, okay, but like, based off of the way you're explaining this, like, this isn't a crime. The Bible says it's okay. And then the governor's like, well, yeah, that's okay. But like, what you're doing isn't okay. And it's like, and then she's like, well, no, I'm doing exactly the thing that you just said it was okay. So what the fuck is going on? And they continue like that for like 5 pages back and forth, arguing whether or not her particular way of doing it was okay or not. And yeah, it's hilarious. But we'll kind of go over it a little during this. So her religious meetings, critiques of ministers, and growing influence had already set her on a collision course with the Puritan leadership, particularly with Governor John Winthrop. He saw her beliefs and the considerable following she had amassed as direct threats to the spiritual and societal order of his colony. And when I say his, I mean the guy was worried about her taking power away from him. And in November of 1637, Hutchinson was brought before the General Court of Massachusetts Bay, charged with heresy and sedition. She faced a panel that included Governor Winthrop, Deputy Governor Thomas Dudley, and other notable figures of the colony. The trial was not a standard legal proceeding, but rather a religious inquisition aiming to defend the colony's orthodoxy. And despite facing an overwhelmingly hostile tribunal, Hutchinson defended herself with eloquence, competence, and deep scriptural knowledge. Her dad raised her on this shit. She was definitely more in tune with the Christ teachings and understanding of it than anyone else there, I'd argue. So she argued her gatherings were private and born out of a genuine desire for religious understanding. When pressed on her criticisms of the colony's ministers, she cleverly maneuvered, noting she merely repeated what she had learned from male leaders, thus challenging the court to indict their own teachings. She kept trying to get them to be like, hey, like, so you guys said this, like, I mean, you're the one who said it. And it didn't work completely, but she definitely demonstrated the hypocrisy of the trial. However, the conclusion of the trial was, to many, a foregone conclusion. She was kind of set to fail. Hutchinson was found guilty and sentenced to banishment from the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Religious convictions were deemed too radical and disruptive, and her gatherings were seen as seeds of potential anarchy. To the south, in Plymouth, William Bradford observed the events unfolding in Massachusetts Bay with keen interest. Though both colonies were rooted in the search for religious freedom, their approaches differed significantly. Bradford, having led Plymouth through its challenging formative years, valued stability and unity. He believed in a more conformist approach, where the community's needs were prioritized over individual interpretations. Hutchinson's actions, from Bradford's perspective, would have been seen as dangerously divisive. He would likely have sympathized with the need to maintain religious order, even if he didn't necessarily agree with the Massachusetts Bay leadership's specific doctrines. He was more of like, okay, it's survival time. Who gives a fuck what people say? Just stick with the community and get it done, baby. That's how we survive. Post-trial, Hutchinson, along with her family and some followers, moved south, eventually settling what is now Rhode Island, a colony that would come to champion religious freedom. Tragically, her life came to a brutal end in 1643 during a conflict with the local Native American tribes. And really brutal. She was scalped, like beheaded, everything, her body dragged throughout the streets. And kind of understandably, at that point, the settlers were kind of fucking over the natives quite a bit. So, yet, her legacy endures, and Hutchinson is remembered as an early proponent of religious freedom and women's rights to theological discourse. The trial of banishment and Hutchinson highlight the challenges of establishing a godly community in the New World. While both Bradford and Hutchinson sought religious freedom, their methods and perspectives diverged, reflecting the broader tensions within early American Puritanism. So, William Bradford's later lives and final years, his impact on Plymouth and the broader American narrative did not conclude with the initial establishment of the colony. His leadership, spanning decades, shaped Plymouth's destiny, navigated challenges, and solidified its place in history. Assuming governorship in 1621, Bradford's rule, with some intermittent breaks, spanned over 3 decades, and about 30 years of leadership. His leadership style was marked by pragmatism, a deep sense of community, and an unwavering commitment to the colony's survival and prosperity. He gave more of a shit about his people than he did about anything else. Bradford prioritized the collective good, often placing the needs of Plymouth above personal interests. So anything that fucked him over, he didn't give a shit about. He's like, everyone needs to survive, and this is what we're doing. So he navigated Plymouth's relations with neighboring colonies with diplomacy and foresight, recognizing the mutual benefits of cooperation. He fostered alliances, particularly with the Massachusetts Bay Colony. These ties were crucial for trade, defense, and the exchange of ideas, even if the colonies occasionally had theological differences. One of Bradford's most significant achievements was cultivating a peace treaty with the Wampanoag people and their leader. This alliance, forged early in Plymouth's history, lasted for over 50 years. This is, kind of why we have Thanksgiving, is because of Bradford. And I love Thanksgiving. This motherfucker is awesome. This little orphan, too lovely uncle loving motherfucker is so cool. Bradford believed in diplomacy and mutual respect, even if there were cultural misunderstandings. However, it's worth noting that relations with other Native American groups were more complex and not always peaceful. But with the Wampanoag people, super cool. They were tight. They were bros. Bradford's leadership also navigated Plymouth through economic challenges. The initial communal system, where all resources were shared, proved ineffective. Recognizing the need for change, Bradford introduced a system where families were given individual plots of land to cultivate. This shift boosted productivity and ensured the colony's economic stability, essentially setting up capitalism kind of in a way where each family's growth is in like how much they do is based off of their own contribution, their own work that they put into it, which is cool. You know, that's pretty cool in some cases, but late stage capitalism not as great. Not gonna lie. Definitely, I don't know. Back in the day, it worked. Nowadays, I think there needs to be somewhere in between. I do think that if you're rich, you shouldn't have to give away everything you own, right? Like, that's fucking ridiculous. But, you know, you find more ways. Like, you don't have to be living such a high, crazy lifestyle. You don't have to live like a fucking god. Anyways, in addition to his governance, Bradford left an indelible mark through his writings. His work, Of Plymouth Plantation, is a seminal account of the Pilgrim's journey and early years in America. The manuscript, written between 1630 and 1651, offers insights into his leadership philosophy, the challenges Plymouth faced, and the deep faith that guided him, as well as the 138 murders he committed over his lifetime, and where he is currently hiding in Massachusetts right now, as an immortal vampire sacrificing to his dark god, Scooby-Doo. William Bradford's life journey came to a close on May 9th, 1657. Like, clearly I'm fucking with you, but still, that's just funny. We're going to pretend William Bradford's alive. We have a quest now and on this show to go hunt and find him. But supposedly his death, May 9th, 1657, marked the end of an era for Plymouth. As one of the last surviving Mayflower passengers, Bradford's passing symbolized the transition from the pioneering generation to the next phase of the colony's history. His legacy at the end is multifaceted. As a leader, he navigated Plymouth through its most vulnerable periods, ensuring its survival and growth. His writings provide invaluable first-hand accounts of early colonial life, capturing the essence of the Pilgrim experience. Above all, Bradford's life embodies the enduring quest, religious freedom, and the challenges that marked this pursuit. So, at the end here, we have contrasting legacies between the both of them. Bradford's more of a beacon of perseverance, communal spirit, and the drive to establish a godly community in a foreign land. Hutchinson embodies the challenge to established orthodoxy, kind of like how America is today, where we have these conflicts of, no, just be pragmatic, stay on the road, don't change a lot of things, don't fight things, don't try and change people's natures. Let's, keep going this way. As opposed to someone who wanted to change something, who wanted to be like, no, like, you guys are fucking wrong here. And it's not right. Like, we gotta fix this. We gotta try and, navigate our way through this. Which kind of brings me to my main point of this episode. These two divergent thought patterns really establish what would later become Republicans and Democrats. Whereas Republicans, at least in my opinion, are much more stay the road, stay the course, don't deviate too much from the path. Kind of like Bradford. And Hutchinson is a challenge to, go fight against what is established, this orthodoxy, go fight against this perceived tyranny. Kind of, I don't know. The fact that they were like intolerant of other religions is still hilarious to me after they were fleeing intolerance. But anyways, with both of these two dead, let's go ahead and get out of today's historical quarrel. All right, everyone, that brings us to the end of today's episode. So, what do you guys think? I have a lot of thoughts on this overall. I really hope my point kind of stands of how these two cultures would end up developing in America. One that tries to, I wouldn't say disrupt, but challenge the established norm and push for change and fight against intolerance in a way with Anne Hutchinson, and then one who likes to stay the course and one and likes to not deviate too much from the path to ensure the overall community survival or growth, as opposed to taking risks and, taking care of, or fighting back against certain things. I just found it interesting how these cultures originally developed. And I'm really excited in the next episode to talk about how American governance would begin during the American Revolutionary War, or just the Revolutionary War. And it's going to be cool. I'm going to have a lot of fun doing it. I hope you guys are going to be enjoying this series as much as I am. American history used to be my least favorite history class. I love world history back in high school and college. And I only did world history in college. And American history always, I don't know, I was like, I live here, man. What the shit? But no, it's so important to understand it, to understand why our country works the way it does, is because of this history. And so hopefully I made it somewhat entertaining for you and as factual as I could be, and something that you're not just have heard on repeat since you were in grade school, essentially. Back in Washington when I was in grade school, they would do for Thanksgiving, like the week leading up to it, we would talk about the Mayflower and all these things happened, and we talked about the history of it, and we got to reenact the settlement and the peace treaty between the natives and the settlers, and it was cool. It was a lot of fun. I had a good time doing that, and reenacting the first Thanksgiving was always a fun time for me. I love Thanksgiving, and we have Bradford to thank for that, basically. Maybe not really just him, but everyone else there too. Guys. I know last week's episode, not as good. I do still want to do more true crime episodes. Oh, sorry. I'm done talking about the stuff now. I think I've given my thesis. I'll go over way more, the next episode. But so we're done with that. If this is all you wanted to listen to, you don't want to hear me drivel on about show stuff, you can leave now. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay. If you're still here, thank you. I'm glad that you want to hear me drivel on about the show and talk about things that are important to its development and future, because I need to talk with people who really like the show and enjoy it to get more feedback, get more thoughts. So anyways, last week's episode, not as good. I'll acknowledge it. I acknowledged it during the episode. And I can tell by the downloads, they're definitely not as good. So I think I might need some help on figuring out how to run stories like that. Do I do a true crime format? Do I kind of make up my own new format, like a historical true crime-esque style, and just do a full ass retelling of the story, completely brand new retelling? No one else has ever done it before. Or do I try and stick with what's been established and just try mimic and mock the thing that everyone listens to on the daily? I don't know. I'm kind of stuck in between on what to do. I think I'm leaning towards more of the retelling and just doing it in a goofy, funny way. Coming up with my own characters, kind of like I do in this, but taking it a little more seriously and making them part of the plot, the overall plot. If so, those episodes are going to take longer to produce and to write, obviously, because writing that shit does not come naturally. Well, it does come a little naturally. I mean, I wrote out 12,000 words in a week and a half. So it's, oh God. Yeah. If you guys would see my writing process, you'd be like, what the fuck? Yeah, I have a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of it is fact. Thankfully for the show, a lot of it's just fact. And I just get, turn the fact into my own words. And that's kind of easy. Writing the jokes are a little hard. The bits I came up with today's episode, I was actually kind of proud of. Again, sorry if you fucking hate the song bits, but those are probably going to continue. Those are fun for me to do. I know I did not sing it all that good. I know I didn't, but deal with it, okay? Have fun. Yeah, I don't know. If you guys found value in this show, please leave a like, leave a review, share it with some friends. It'll help continue to grow the show. Get to the point where I can start doing this without, I guess, like having to invest as heavily into it as I am. I'm already investing pretty heavily with my time and everything, but I also pay for like keeping it up. So I guess if like I could just get like an ad or two on here, then I wouldn't have to, that money wouldn't be coming from me. It'd be coming from the advertisements just to keep the show up. Yeah, other than that though, I don't know, man. I'm figuring this shit out still, obviously. I'm pretty early on into my show. So that's having fun with it though. I'm having a really good time. And I really hope you guys are having a good time listening to it as fans, as listeners, lovers. Ooh. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. This part is just me rambling every episode. I know. It's not really to fill time or anything, but it is for me to get last minute thoughts out, last minute ideas out that I have. Please get ready for next week. I'm really excited to go over the Revolutionary War. That's going to be so much fun. Love it. It'll also be pretty easy to get a bunch of facts out. But since I'm doing this in a series, it's more about like how the government's political parties were founded and how they came into being. It's, yeah, I don't know. It won't be as like most like other Revolutionary War podcasts. You're definitely going to get a different side with me. It's going to be a little more of a, hey, so like this was happening, and because like this was happening at the time, we have this that goes on to create this. And I like to kind of point that out to be like, okay, so this happened, and then this was a direct result of it, which is what the series is for. Like, today's episode, again, we have these establishment of these two cultures between Bradford and Hutchinson that will definitely lead into the Republican and Democratic parties. So, again, just so fucking cool. And I have so much fun doing this. I really hope that passion's, like you guys can feel it too. It's not just me thinking, oh yeah, no, you're passionate about this, Tyler. Like, you resonate that, dog. Like, you got it, dude. You got it, man. I really hope that's not the case. But yeah, no, seriously, I seriously appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support. It means a lot to me. I probably would have dropped this a little shortly after Alexander the Great if it hadn't started picking up and I started getting some some messages and some good feedback, because like after school I was kind of focused on getting my cybersecurity degree and wasn't sure about where to go from there. And like then I saw all this picking up and I was like, you know what? I'll give this shit another shot, and I'm going to work my ass off on it and make it really as good as I possibly can with my limited knowledge that I have. Hopefully one day I can get to the point where I have a studio and I can hire someone to do my sound and other shit for me. So that way I'm not, just doing it all myself and taking up. I mean, I still take up a lot of time just for the scripting process, but still I want to be, having to sit here, record, edit, and do stuff a whole bunch on all my Sundays. And not being able to spend as much time with my family. I'd like to eventually. I'm still spending time with my family. Don't get me wrong. I still spend plenty of time with them, with my boys. I get to hang out with them, and it's so great. It makes me so happy. So don't worry there. Like, I am good there. But, one day it'd be cool. It'd be cool. So, I mean, if you like the show, again, share it, spread it. It helps me keep it up. And the more we spread it, the bigger it gets. The more I can keep doing the show, and the better I can make it. I'm still going to make it better regardless if it grows or not. I just want this thing to be cool. But that's all. I love you guys. See ya. Bye.
2020 with hope in our sails. We ventured forth, leaving behind a sad tale. Lands of the free, where our dreams might take wing, yet carrying with us a very certain thing. Yo-ho, together we stride to lands where freedom does surely reside. People, we're all agree to perceive as long as their hearts in our truth believe. Horizons beckon, a promise is sweet, a place for our faith where new souls will meet.